Hi there and welcome to our next video on heat transfers. In this video we're going to be looking at conduction, convection, radiation and some examples of each one. So let's get started. Conduction is the transfer of heat between substances that are in direct contact with each other. For example, in this image we have a stick and the person is holding it. We have a flame which is heating the stick. Conduction occurs when a substance is heated. The particles will gain more energy and vibrate more. These molecules then bump into nearby particles and transfer some of their energy to them. So, this stick is a solid. This means it has particles aligned in an orderly format, as I've shown over here. The same occurs throughout the stick. Now, this flame heats these particles, heats the stick. These particles start to vibrate because they're given some heat energy, and this vibration is passed on to the other particles in the stick which are next to them, and so on. So it passes all the way through till it reaches the person's hand. To the point where it reaches the person's hand, this is when the person feels something hot on his hand. So this flame burns the stick. The hottest part of the stick will be this part over here because the flame is directly underneath it, so it will have a constant supply of heat energy, and this heat energy will be passed on down the stick till it reaches the person's hand, and this is when the person realizes that it's too hot to hold the stick and eventually drops it. Now on to convection. This is heat which is transferred from one place to another by convection, and some examples include a radiator and heating on a stove. Over here I've got an example of convection currents. We have the flame over here, the stove, and convection currents happens when warmer air or warmer water rises and cooler water descends. So over here I've got an example with a pan and we've got water in it and we're heating the water. Convection currents occur because the heating of the water rises, which is at the bottom of the pan. It rises and then it becomes cool when it touches the top of the pan, and then it descends again. This is a cycle which occurs. When you heat water on a pan, you realize that 30 seconds into the time amount you've put it in, you realize that it's still not hot, the top of the water. This is because the convection currents haven't actually reached the top of the pan there, and it takes time. But after a few minutes, if you touch the surface of the water, you then realize that okay, yeah, it's getting warmer, because convection currents heat the water from the bottom of the pan until the top of the pan. It goes from bottom, middle to top. Now onto radiation. This is a type of electromagnetic radiation which includes waves. So over here we've got flames released by waves. So when you think of radiation, this is something that is given off. For example, this is given off as heat and light energy. When it comes to waves, we think of it as something like light waves and sound waves. But radiation is a topic we're going to be touching on in a later video. And now an example with all of them in convection, conduction and radiation. Over here we have a pan with a handle and we have a heat source. Convection, conduction and radiation all occur in this image. First of all, we have this handle of the pan. When we're heating water on the pan, not only does it heat the water, but it heats the pan as well. So at the bottom of the pan, this area over here, the flame is heating it up. This then passes on to the surface of the pan and the edges of the pan, and then this eventually passes on to this handle over here, and this is by direct contact. This is because the flame is touching the handle, because energy is being transferred. This is the transfer of heat or electric current from one substance to another by direct contact. Convection occurs because of the liquid which is inside of the pan. Convection currents occur. Over here they're going in circles. The warm air is rising and the cool air is descending, and this is caused by molecular motion. Radiation is also occurring because the energy is being radiated or transmitted in the form of rays or waves or particles. So because of this flame, radiation is being transferred by particles over here, and rays. You see sun rays coming, then you feel hot. The same with this flame, you feel hot because of the rays and particles which are being released. So now putting it all into a summary, over here we have this person who is sweating, we'll say, and all convection, evaporation, radiation and conduction occur in this image. Evaporation, the person is in a hot weather, so he's gonna sweat, and because he sweats, the water is going to be released, and this water is then going to be evaporated because of the warm weather. So evaporation is the loss of heat of by evaporation of water. So the sweat on the person's body is being evaporated. Radiation is the emission of electromagnetic radiation. So again, with the sun rays, radiation occurs, it hits the person's body and it occurs. Conduction is direct transfer by contact. So over here you can see that the person is sitting on maybe a stone or a seat. You will notice whenever you sit on something, the place eventually becomes warmer. This is because the person has a body temperature of approximately 37 degrees. Now, if a person sits on it, there is going to be no space for wherever he's sitting to breathe out. So then it absorbs all the energy. And if it absorbs all the energy, this is direct transfer by contact. The heat energy that the person already has is being transferred to the seat. And because of this, the seat becomes warmer. It has all that heat energy from the person. Convection also occurs because there is air in his surroundings and the moving air removes radiated heat. So he is burning hot, the convection currents come in and then sweep along carrying some heat energy, and then this again happens in convection currents. They go around in a sort of a flow and then they take away, making him cooler. So for example, if you sit in front of a fan, you eventually feel cooler because the air from the fan comes in convection currents, taking away some of your heat energy and bringing it back. The same happens when you're outside. When it's a cool day, you see that you're feeling cold because convection currents occur even more, because the air comes and then it takes away some of your heat energy, and it happens in loops. So when it's a really cold day, you sometimes feel like you're really cold, you're freezing, it's like ice outside, and your body temperature drops. This is because of the temperature outside. It takes away too much of your heat energy, and then you need to get inside and sit in front of the heater for an amount of time because you're freezing cold, and this raises your heat energy by convection as well because of the radiator warming you up. In the description box below, there's a link to a quiz which you can have a go at. In our next video, we're going to be having a look at some exam questions to do with heat transfers. But for now, that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. And one last thing, please subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell.